Hi, I'm Mary Allison Brown from reflectingrelationships.com, and today we're here to talk about understanding challenging behaviors. Let's get started. Okay, so today we are going to talk about understanding challenging behavior using a framework that might be a little bit different than what you're used to. So let me say this first, and you're probably going to hear it more than once, but all behavior has meaning. And all behavior is a form of communication, without exception. That is always, always, always true. So when we don't understand the meaning of the behavior or what a child is trying to communicate, it doesn't mean that they're not trying to communicate. It just means that we, as the adults, are not understanding the message. So I have a challenging behavior worksheet that I like to use when I work with teachers and with parents, and it looks like this. And if you would like to receive a free PDF copy of this, I will put the link to the site down below and come on over to reflectingrelationships.com, and I am happy to share this with you. So today we're going to talk about how we can use this framework to become a behavior detective, to understand challenging behavior and respond to it more appropriately to alleviate it more easily. So let's get started. So the first box on the worksheet is identifying what the behavior concern is. So this could be anything that is frustrating or challenging to you about your child's behavior or the behavior of a child that you work with. So it might be aggression, like biting or hitting or pushing. It might be whining. It might be something like a child who is jealous of a younger sibling. So let's use that as our example. So a child who, when the younger sibling is being fed or held or rocked, can engage in some aggressive behaviors toward the sibling. And we'll try to use that as we move through our worksheet. So the next step is to identify what are the triggers for the behavior. And so start putting on your detective hat here and start thinking outside the box. So not just the obvious triggers that you can see, but think bigger. So first of all, identify when does this behavior happen? Is it consistently after nap time every day or before lunchtime? Or is it at a certain part of the daily routine in a classroom environment? So that's our first step to identifying triggers. The second step is, like I just said, going a little bit bigger and thinking about what else is happening in the environment before the behavior happens. So look around, think like a child. What do you see? What do you smell? What can you hear? What can you taste? Is it lunchtime? Is there a certain food that's a trigger? So you have to think with all five senses what is happening in the child's environment that leads to this behavior. Now, we don't know exactly how they're related yet, but just identify anything you can that seems to be a trigger for this child. So the next step of the worksheet is identifying how you, as the caregiver, the teacher, or the parent, feels when the behavior happens. So if you have a child, with our example, who is jealous of a younger sibling and is aggressive when you are trying to nurse the baby, for example, how does that make you feel as the mom? I'm going to imagine it probably makes you feel really frustrated because as a parent, it's your job to keep not just one of your children safe, but both of your children safe. And when your older child is engaging in aggressive behaviors toward a younger child, that's frustrating. You need to keep both of those babies safe all the time. That's your primary job as a parent. So that might be one thing. Often when a parent or a teacher doesn't understand what's causing a behavior, they can feel kind of helpless. So maybe you're feeling helpless, you're powerless to change the situation. So for this step, you want to be really honest with yourself about how you feel when the challenging behavior occurs. The next step is to identify how do you think your child feels. Now, they are not articulate enough at this stage to really be able to tell us how they feel, but it's our job to kind of figure out how do we think he or she feels. So if your child, with our example, we'll stay with the same one, is seeming to engage in negative behaviors when a younger sibling gets attention, is your child perhaps feeling jealous? If you have an aggressive child, are they feeling angry or frustrated? Or is it something else? Are they maybe feeling left out of play? It might be something that isn't so obvious. So put on your detective hat and try to think really critically about how might the child be feeling when the behavior happens. A lot of times kids feel pretty out of control when they're engaging in out of control behaviors. So the behavior is really frustrating for us as the adult, but it's also frustrating for the child because they just don't know a better way or have a better way to communicate their needs, but they don't like to feel out of control in their body either. So think about how this behavior feels for the child you work with or your child. Then we're going to think about what is the unmet social emotional need and what is the purpose of the behavior. So sometimes these things are exactly the same and sometimes they're totally different. So you can think about it in either way. So let's start with the unmet social emotional need. And if you haven't watched the video yet on the 10 social emotional needs of infants and toddlers, now's a great time to go back and brush up on that so you can kind of use that as a reference guide. But for a child who is maybe showing some jealousy toward a younger sibling, an unmet social emotional need in that situation might be the need to feel noticed and receive attention, or the need to feel acknowledged and understood. A lot of times in children who are having aggressive behaviors, the need might be to understand and manage my upset feelings or to have mutually enjoyable relationships and feel a sense of belonging. So take a look at those 10 social emotional needs of infants and toddlers, and I'll put that link below as well. And then think about what need is your child or the child that you work with trying to meet through this behavior. And then what's the purpose of the behavior? So sometimes, for example, if it's to feel noticed and receive attention, well, the purpose of the behavior then is to feel noticed and receive attention. But sometimes it's not always so clear cut. So sometimes it might be that a child feels powerful, for example, when they push or hit or shove another child. And maybe that is meeting a different social emotional need. So you can think about that sort of all as one or separate depending on what the behavior is that you're trying to understand. So the next step is to start thinking about what have you already tried? What has already worked? Because if you're at this point where you're trying to put on your behavior detective hat, probably you've already tried some things. So what have you tried? Think about what's worked, what hasn't worked, what's kind of worked, and let's use that as a place that we can start figuring out what to try next from. So be really honest about what has made changes in the behavior and what hasn't, and what has maybe a little bit but could be tweaked to work a little bit better. So the next section on the worksheet is what do you wonder about? A big part of infant and early childhood mental health is wondering about a child's experience and really trying to understand the child's subjective experience. So understanding what is going on for your child, what they are experiencing in their own world. And so this is a place where you can just jot down questions about what do you wonder about. For example, I wonder if the combination of starting preschool and having a younger sibling at the same time may have been too much change at once for this child. So they're just wonderings, things that you can think about as you go through the next week or 2 weeks with this child, and things that you can be thinking about to help you have a more rich and fully developed understanding of what the need and the communication is with the challenging behavior. And then the last section is strategies to try. So there's millions and billions of parenting strategies. Some are better than others. And I often think like a lot of the times it doesn't really matter so much which specific strategy you try as long as you're consistent and it's something that feels right for you and for your child. And also that you have the ability to be reflective about what is and isn't working, and so that you can go back and make changes. So that's the challenging behavior worksheet. And like I said, I would say it again, so I'll say it again. All behavior has meaning, and all behavior is a form of communication. So using this worksheet is a way to help you start thinking critically and sort of getting inside your child's brain to figure out what are they trying to communicate with that behavior and how can I meet those needs. So the best strategies to try are the ones that meet the needs that your child is trying to meet through negative behavior proactively before they have to engage in negative behavior. So for example, if your child is engaging in negative behavior to meet the need to feel noticed and receive attention, what do you want to do? Give them lots and lots of noticing and attention Lots of, hey, I see you playing over there. And neutral comments on play are super powerful. So I see that you're using the pink blocks. No judgment there, just neutral comments. Give them lots of one-on-one time proactively. There's a strategy for classroom teachers called banking time, which is just during a free play time. 2 to 3 times a week, take 10 minutes out of free play time and spend that time following the child's lead who's having the challenging behaviors to strengthen that connection in the teacher-child relationship. And then encourage cooperation because you are meeting the need to feel noticed and receive attention before the child resorts to negative behaviors. So that's the way to understand challenging behaviors using this framework. And I hope that that's helpful to you. I hope there's something in there that will help you make sense of a challenging behavior that you're experiencing with a child in your life. So I hope you will come visit me at reflectingrelationships.com to stay in the loop about what's going on. And if you liked this video, please share with a friend. I think that it's important for us all to remember that all behavior has meaning, third time, and it's important that we respond appropriately. All right, see you next time. Bye.